Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're backstage here at the Brooklyn Bowl with two Ace of Cups, Denise Kaufman, Mary Ellen Simpson. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. Denise, I want to ask you, I'm not sure if they talked to you about this on the Today Show, but you were the only musician and married prankster in the Bay Area. Is that right? Because, I mean, Babs, those guys pretended to be musicians, but you were an actual musician.
Well, you're not counting the Grateful Dead.
Were they pranksters? I mean,
absolutely.
Really? Okay,
Absolutely.
So they were as well. You would put them in that group.
Yeah.
I would love you to talk about. We just lost the cat, is Robert Hunter.
Right.
Can you tell the audience a good Robert Hunter story?
I actually really can't because
he's a reckless.
Well, no, because, maybe in the very earliest days when I was first hearing Jerry, when he had the jug band and, he was playing acoustic music in Palo Alto, I think Robert Hunter might have been around then, but I didn't know him. And then by the time he really started writing with them and for them, I was already living in Hawaii by then, so I don't have Robert Hunter stories.
Mary Ellen, what is the most gratifying thing about being able to sort of, I don't want to say it was a rebirth, but the fact that you guys are able to take your show on the road? I'm talking to Grateful Shred here, and they're playing 3 nights here. Amazing band. But they weren't really even hip to you guys. So how gratifying is it to come back and really have a rebirth? If that's the way you would characterize, how would you characterize?
I mean, we feel incredibly lucky that this is happening right now.
Why?
Just because we figured that when we broke up years ago that it wasn't going to happen. And so the fact that there's somebody came along who helped it to happen is sort of like amazing.
Did somebody help it to happen? Or?
Oh, yes.
You want to give a shout out to that?
Yeah, it's George Bear Wallace.
George Bear Wallace.
Yes, he's the head of High Moon Records. And
Was he a prankster?
No.
He's a young guy.
He's a young guy, but he loves.
So how did he?
older
I'm
music.
saying, do you know? Can you give the lineage of how he get hip to you guys?
Well,
Yeah,
Denise can.
Yeah, he when in about 2003, when Alec Palau and Big Beat Records out of the UK put out an album of some of our archival tapes that we had from the old
You
days.
gave me the CDs. They're badass.
Right.
Yeah.
So George, who is my daughter's age, he's like 49. He being an aficionado of all the music of the 60s, particularly the Bay Area, he heard that record and tracked me down about 2010 and was looking for more archival music because he has this mostly, up until us, an boutique archival record label. So he put out Arthur Lee's Black Beauty. He put out one of
Arthur Lee in Love.
Yeah, that. So
right.
he will find either unreleased.
I
record,
I dig.
So that was George's passion, and so he tracked us down, and we started communicating, and over a little while, he ended up sponsoring Mary Ellen and Diane and I to come together and just play. He just wanted to give us a chance to play together. That was after 2011 when we played for Wavy Gravy's birthday his 75th birthday at the Craneway Pavilion in the Bay Area.
Freaking love that guy so much, man.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys? I mean, just like Kaleidoscope, Quicksilver, those bands never got uptight about tempo shifts, playing in odd meters, or time signatures. What about the Ace of Cups? Are we going to see that kind of a different? Because I love people that aren't uptight about those 3 things: tempo shifting. You want to riff on that stuff, Marianne?
Yeah.
Marianne, go ahead. I mean, are we going to see some of that? I don't
Circles.
want.
Yeah, circles. Yeah, we have one.
Circles. Let's break that out immediately.
Yeah, circles. It's we definitely go through a time shift on that one. So yeah.
How did you get comfortable playing in with odd times? Did the Ace going back in the day? Did the Ace?
Yeah,
Cups
we
do
did. Yeah, definitely we did.
And how much of that had? I mean, when you think back to your live performances, Mary Ellen, how would it almost be just a stream of consciousness thing? Like you wouldn't really be aware of it until maybe after the fact?
Well, I mean, we had certain things, like we did a song called Afro Blue also.
Yeah, it's Mongol. That's Mongol.
Yeah.
I know. Mongol's spirit is in the room tonight.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, just
Santeria
different-
right there.
Yeah, and I think that, we just...
Can you do Afro Blue tonight? I would love you to do that.
We want to.
We'd love to.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm continuing. I mean, was it a subconscious thing or was it a conscious thing? Like Cipollina and those guys, I don't think they even knew. Sometimes they were just in such a psychedelic jam.
Yeah, they could have been. Yeah, for sure.
When we listen to some of our old tapes, we go on some pretty psychedelic journeys.
Yeah,
and
the vocals.
Yeah, but even instrumentally, we
yeah.
just let it go. You know, because we were so influenced by them, by Quicksilver. We were in the same office with them. We played so many shows with them,
Right.
and so
When did they birth though? 65?
by the time we came along, they were already
established.
So, yeah.
So 65 sounds right.
Did you? Well, let me ask you. When I interviewed Lydia Pence, when she was younger, she would be in the audience, and James Brown and the Flames would come through. Did you guys share the bill with James Brown and the Flames? Or,
no, but I went to see him. I saw James Brown at Winterland.
He threw his cufflinks to Lydia. She was loving
I
it.
saw him in Winterland too. Yeah.
At Winterland. Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Were you hip to the Chitlin circuit in like Hayward and Martina? Did you go to?
You know, I didn't get to. I
wouldn't have gone
pretty
either.
young.
Yeah.
You know, no. I mean, I went to that kind of those groups when they played in San Francisco, and sometimes they did. Even when
Like Ike and Tina Turner.
Ike and Tina Turner did a 1-month residency at the Hungry Eye during the like 67.
Was it North Beach?
Yeah.
In North Beach. It was the weirdest
1
venue
month
for them.
residency?
Yeah, they played every night there. And and some nights there would be like 6 people. Some nights on the weekends there would be like 40 or 50. It
didn't matter though, because
they just
really
put it out, so that I went in all the time to hear them.
You know, I often talk about thinking that a lot of square cats need to dose a little bit in order to even just ego deflate. I know Grace Slick said something about that, but when you talk about the essence of that time, when you go back to the time of the Ace of Cups and the alternative. I mean, I just read something today where Mickey Hart said everybody was an artist in the Haight-Ashbury, everybody.
Right.
But now music is seen, and I want you to just riff on this, is that you get this attitude now that music is a musician's gift to the world, that it's no longer seen as a profession. Was it actually seen as a profession? Am I just naive? I wasn't birthed till 78. But back then, how has the significance of music changed in our culture? How do we need to get people to recognize that you're not playing music, you're working. You're not playing anything. Marianne.
Boy, that's kind of a difficult question for me to answer.
Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, yeah. Well, I mean, what do you feel? Do you feel it's accurate? Do you feel like the significance of music has changed in our culture?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that it has because of all the streaming. I mean, the whole business side of it has changed dramatically. And as far as the musical side,
That's what I'm
I mean,
talking
there's
about, yeah.
always going to be people who are going to play because they love to play, and in that sense, that's just what they want to do. And I don't know about a gift to the world, but it is a chance to get the words out, like our vocals, what we are saying. It's a really good thing for people to hear, I think, compared to Baby Shark, or whatever that thing was. I mean, it's like, please.
Well, I've done some deep dives into all art today. Denise, I just would love you. Please riff.
Let's keep going on that.
Riff, yeah.
Because one of the things that I really think in the 60s when you said everyone was an artist.
Yeah, well, Mickey said that, but that was Haight-Ashbury. Yeah.
So when I think of the Haight-Ashbury, I think of how cheap the rents were, and the fact that you could live in a big Victorian.
Did you live? Were you guys one of those?
Yeah.
So the airplane, the dead. I love this stuff.
We lived all in that same within
like
blocks of each other.
Unreal.
I lived in a house with Peter Albin and his brother that they owned.
Rodney.
Yeah. Rodney.
See, that's okay. So interesting. Yeah, Rodney was insane. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh boy.
So
cost
in
of
those
living
days,
is crushing,
if our rent, I mean, the house where Mary Gannon lived with Marla was $45 a month, or $75 a month.
75.
The one that I lived in with you later and a bunch of other people was like $200 a month. But there were so many rooms that you could work for a few days and pay your month's rent. And then you had the rest of the time to explore what you wanted to.
That's right.
And I think that gave us a freedom and a playfulness to be able to really not feel so pressured. When I was walking with some people today, other people that were on the filmed us today. We did the Today Show, and the two
insane you
great
did that.
guys, these techs, are just they work with Michelle Esrick, and they
Yeah.
doing
Michelle.
documentary.
Great cat.
Right. So these Zach and Matt, and I was saying, how do you live in New York? I mean, how can you make enough money to live? In
Mom and
this-
Dad. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, they're
insane.
and so they're both creative guys, and they're doing projects, but just to, how much of their energy just to keep a roof over their head. That's different.
You didn't have to worry about. You didn't have to worry about starving. You weren't starving to death. You could actually, in the New York musicians, the Breckers and the Liebmans and all the jazzers, they'd have the loft scene down there. In 1 week with studio work, they could pay their rent.
Exactly.
So you could really focus and cultivate your art.
Right.
Exactly.
That's the big difference, probably. Right
And Liz,
there.
before I let you go, Denise, I'm writing a book, and one of the parts is about the Merry Pranksters. And you are a Merry Prankster, okay? And I have a huge amount of content. I'm drowning in content from Babs and Walker about Cassidy and Kesey. What was your role as a prankster? How did you find your groove in there, and just talk about the essence of it, because this is going to go in the book. Because you are a prankster. I mean, even Marla said Denise was a prankster, and so the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I always was. The music was always central for me, so.
I understand that.
So.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Here's the point. My argument in the book is that without the pranksters, there'd be no Grateful Dead. That might be overly. Is that true? Is that a fair statement?
Say that again.
Without the I know the Dead were the. Now you're saying the Dead were the Merry Pranksters.
That they were pranksters. They were the Dead, but they were also pranksters.
Okay, but they don't get lumped into the. They weren't on the bus with Cassidy,
They
Motormouth.
were.
They were.
Totally, they were a lot.
So how did you come into it? One thing is now the whole thesis of my book is no, because my point was that my point was that without the acid tests, there would really maybe not have been a Grateful Dead or a psychedelic scene.
Well, I think that was the synergistic thing. I think.
Can you talk about Watts and the Longshoremen's Hall? Talk about Watts and the Longshoremen's Hall.
Well, of course, Longshoreman was first, and
this is so amazing. You're blowing my mind right now.
So
the thesis of my book is destroyed now. Because the Dead are never, listen, the Dead are always seen as a hippie band. And the pranksters came in between the Beats and the hippies. So, to me, for you to say that the Dead were pranksters is very revelatory, because I look at Kesey, Cassidy, yourself. Obviously, there was a mercurial pianist, a woman, I can't remember her name, Walker. But
Mountain Girl,
absolutely.
Gretchen Fetchin.
Gretchen Fetchin was the one. That's the one.
Sweet and Generous. I mean, there were a lot of.
So how do you break that milieu?
And of course, Roy Seaburn.
You're throwing out.
Roy Seaburn, who painted the bus, who wrote the name Further on the bus.
You were
amazing.
known as Denise. Yeah. What was your name?
Mary Microgram.
Mary
Microgram.
Yeah.
In the book.
Yeah.
So, if there's any essence that can carry over to today without having massive acid tests like Watts and Longshoremen's Hall, what would it be for younger generations who are going to see this well after we're gone?
Well, did you want to go to that question, or do you want to go something more about the Watts acid test?
You go wherever you want.
I mean,
You were there.
Yeah, absolutely. The Longshoremen's Hall was really gathering all of the artists together at that time, whether it was Don Buchla and Stuart Brand,
unsung cat, man.
and of course the Dead and some of the other bands that were at the Longshoremen's Hall too, and then everything that the pranksters had been doing, which was working with echo around the room and working with the lights and music and sound.
Joshua
and,
Tree light show,
that,
the light shows too. Yeah.
And so, to be able to create that experience, that in a sense container for people to experience what reality, the melting of reality, and the chance to be able to dissolve and flow into ways in that container that they, could. I mean, once you went there, you never, you can't put the butterfly back in the cocoon, you know, or in the chrysalis, you know what I mean? It's like that, you know, so like letting those places out of ourselves. And you have to remember, we're coming out of the most repressive times in the 50s, you know? And so,
yeah, it's a little naive because McCarthy was there and that.
yeah, you know, that,
When did
yeah.
I mean? When did you meet Kesey when he was at Menlo Park?
I met Kesey, well, at La Honda. I mean, he was at La Honda. I didn't meet him at La Honda.
Because he was doing somehow got to do these government tests.
Yeah, he
right?
had already done that. That
He'd
was
already
earlier,
done that,
yeah.
and you were there.
I met him. The pranksters already had the bus. I met them at the Unitarian conference down at Asilomar, and that's where I, met them and basically got on the bus that week. But
that's insane.
You know, and I was 18, and so Mountain Girl was 18. Bobby Weir was 18 or 17. And we
Bobby
were kind
Weir,
of,
young cat, yeah.
But I think when you in the Watts acid test, I mean, that was an incredible. That we pulled that off, you know. It was the first big event in Watts since the Watts riots, and
there was a girl that was having a bad trip, right?
Yeah,
Babs put a microphone in her mouth.
Right?
Is that true? What happened?
Yeah,
there?
and Wavy did that. You know,
Wavy
it was
put
like,
it in there.
She was. This woman was just going,
I'm
who
dying.
cares?
Who
cares? And and Wavy put the mic by her, and we kind of gathered around, and the mic echoed throughout the room, and it was like the deep human question, who cares?
Wow.
Right? But it was in a safe space where she could express that, and it was safe, and she kind of moved through that journey in a protected zone, and we all felt that place in ourselves. Who cares, right?
Well, I wish you guys were opening all 3 nights for the Grateful Dead. I feel like you guys have the gravitas to do that. But what an honor, Mary Ellen.
Thank
Denise,
you.
always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Jake.
Kesey lives.
Yeah.
See you later.